Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 26, the Riyad Mahrez episode. Regardless of team allegiances, I think we can pretty comfortably say that he has that 26 locked up. Unless it's the Savinho episode. Chad, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if we're really talking about guys to wear 26 in the Premier League, you kind of got to start with John Terry, I would think. As much as I'm not a fan of either team. I think you would say Terry probably had more of an impact on a Chelsea team that probably didn't achieve as much, but had more of a consistent impact than Mahrez. This is a novice. This is a novice talking.
I'm not huge on the sleeping with your teammate's wife while he's on the team act.
Yeah, but
I haven't personally given it a go, but I don't know. I guess if John Terry is my case study, then I might have to.
Yeah, but you didn't knock Delonte West at all in your all-time rankings, did you?
LeBron's dad.
Yeah, that was one of the greatest rumors of all time. That I'm not still. That was like kind of right before I got heavy into the NBA, where I wouldn't have known necessarily if that was true or not. It was just something you heard, and it was like, oh, okay.
Well, that was also at the time when rumors could just swirl around without any literally any basis whatsoever. Like now, someone
and any consequences either.
Yeah, because now people will tweet and they'll be like source at Real Madrid fan 74. And they'll be like, hey, Zidane's actually beefing with Carlo to get the job back, and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? But back then, it was just you could just make up any rumor and it'd be fun to talk about for years.
I'll tell you the thing I love most about and I spend way too much time on these Twitter pages specifically, but I still love them, is the non-team affiliated team page. I spend the amount of time.
Mark.
No check mark. Well, I don't know. See, the check mark thing is we could do a whole podcast
a lot more
on
accessible.
That. Yeah, exactly. We could do a whole pod on that, which we'll spare you today. But maybe a check mark, maybe not, whatever. But they're definitely not affiliated with the team at all, and they're just feeding a bunch of news because they're just regurgitating everything that they see, and half of it you'll see who it's from, and once you find out the newspaper affiliations within the country, you'll be able to know in 5 seconds if it's a real rumor or not.
Any Twitter page that's called Insert Club Zone automatically not going to give good rumors.
I'm telling you, Madrid Zone, my guy, he said that Fran Garcia was going to start 4 games in a row, and he ended up starting none of them. So,
Fran Garcia is the stockiest fullback I've ever seen in my entire life. This dude is actually built like a running back. I never really watched Real Madrid. When I watched the Madrid Atleti game, this dude literally looked like Saquon Barkley out there, especially compared to whoever he was marking.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's thought of as an attacking fullback, so then to just be
but he's
jacked.
built like Desmond Bain.
Yeah, exactly. It's how many attacking fullbacks have no neck? So, I'm scared anytime this dude throws it in because he's
gonna scrape his bye against his head. So
yeah, exactly. So
all dick eating aside, this is the mailbag episode. Me and Chad have been think about this for a little bit now, and you know, it's kind of a weird period in the sports year. Super Bowl just happened, so obviously no football. No one gives a damn about the NBA All-Star Game anymore. I would love to cover the Four Nations face-off, but I know none of you guys really care about it.
Quick aside on the NBA All-Star Game. I watched all of Saturday night. I just finished telling E about this before we were recording. Watched all of Saturday night. Have to give some quick ratings. Skills challenge. I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 10. Really horrible, boring.
I'll give it a 10.
Well, look, Cavs winning it. I wasn't mad at, but just the rest, no. Jello performing in between that 0 out of 10 because he performed one song and it sounded like he didn't even know the lyrics to his own song, so that was good. 3-point contest. Actually, had some drama. Came down to Buddy Hield versus Hero for the finals. Your boy Dame got knocked out in the group stage, so big hit on his.
If they had a pull-up 3 contest, I feel like he would have won.
Not
as much of a spot-up guy.
Well, he had won it the last 2 years, so him and Mac McClung both going for 3-peats this year, which Kevin Harlan dropped a great line when he said, when they were talking about Damian Lillard and when he got knocked out of the group, and he was like, a 3-peat that wasn't, or that didn't happen or wasn't to be, something like that. He was like, the second time in 2 weeks we're saying that. And I was like, nice little dig at KC. So, and then the dunk contest was a 4 out of 10. 2 of the guys missed like half of their dunks. And one guy missed so many that he wasn't allowed to keep going. So that was nice.
Nothing will beat the dude pulling a layup when as the horn was
Darryl
going off.
Armstrong.
About 20 years ago. The horn goes off and he throws up a reverse lay. So that was all-time stuff.
That's the funny part is he did the reverse. Because in your mind...
He's like in midair and it buzzes and then the dude...
Because I think what it is the minimum score was 7. So it was going to be... Because I think he ended up getting a 35 on it. So the minimum score was 7. And in his mind, he's like, hey, let me try something fancy if someone wants to throw me an 8. Like that. Because he's going in for a regular layup and then he completely changes it midway.
Well, I like how he, gave us people that never got the opportunity to really dunk that opportunity. When you're in the front yard when you're like a kid and you're like, hey, we can't dunk, so let's like have a layup competition. So that was a big shout out to us. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Us normal people that aren't high flyers.
Lower the rim if Dad's not around. If Dad's around, the rim's not getting lowered.
Yeah, because we can't get better by dunking on a 7-foot hoop. So what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Of doing it?
Go out and play 21.
Mailbag episode. It was interesting. We put some stuff up on our Instagram yesterday. Got a decent amount of questions, but we also had some questions for each other. So, Chad, where should we start? You want to start with one of your questions, or should I start with some of mine?
We can go ahead and actually start with one of mine, because I think this is a topic that you're always ready to talk about for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh, Jesus.
So this
was
kind of
Cole Palmer's performance versus top Big Six teams.
You're getting warmer. These are 2 questions. First one came from our boy Chase Deaton, good lad. He said, "Can Chelsea find form again amongst an injury bug and poor team play?" Jonathan Ryder, one of our a guy who's been on the pod, he asked a bunch of questions. One of them off of those was, where will Chelsea finish in the Premier League this season? So, really, I guess Chelsea is kind of the talking point to start off with. And, I know you're always ready, so I just want to kind of give you the ball on the wing and clear out for you.
Well, they're currently sitting in 6th place, which is funny because 3-4 months ago, I thought they were in a title race and they were in Phase 6 and Arteta was still in Phase 5, so that's good. But no, in all seriousness, though, I just think that Chelsea has a very incomplete team. I just think that they have a lot of good players. Mm-hmm. They remind me a lot of old Arsenal teams that I really grew up watching, where you look at the team and there's not any hole, but there's not a ton of players that are edging toward world class. All right, and that's when you can get into a weird place as a fan, because you're not sitting there being like, our left back is bad, we need to replace him, or our right wing is bad, so we need to replace him, or our striker is bad, because the players aren't. Go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like in the NFL. Mike Lombardi always talks about there are 3 levels when you get to the off season. Guys you 0% need to replace, are gonna be on the team nailed on no matter what. Guys who you could do with replacing, and then guys who you absolutely need to replace. Right. Feels like Chelsea have a lot of guys in that middle group, would you say?
Right. Where it's just Tolson isn't a bad player. We don't need a star center back, but we could definitely upgrade that place. Robert Sanchez is probably that third level player that you were talking about, where it needs replacing. But that's like one of the few positions where you really look at their midfield and it's like, oh, Caicedo, Enzo, Cole Palmer. You don't look at that and like, we need to make an investment, especially with the investment you made in 2 of those 3 players. But it's like there are better midfielders out there that you will need if you want to do things such as competing for winning the Champions League or winning the Premier League, which Chelsea just decide to do every 8 years. So I think right now they're kind of stuck in that middle ground where it's like they have Cole Palmer, who's an amazing player, is suffering a little bit of a dip and kind of coming back to reality. Not in a sense that's like he's still not amazing, but it's just that's why me and Chad talk about this all the time. That's why these great players are considered to be so great, like your Mo Salahs, your obviously Lionel Messi's and Ronaldo's and Luis Suarez, guys like that. Because they were so good for so many years. You could always count on them getting X amount of goals and assists. And Cole Palmer is just I won't say young because he's actually not as young as a lot of you might think, but he's a very inexperienced player and he hasn't built up those years of getting consistent football and having to put together 8 months of consistent football over and over again. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like I still assume they're going to finish in that 5th spot, that kind of maybe Champions League, maybe not Champions League spot. But I don't think they're going to punch any higher, especially with City finding some form. I think even if Forest start to fall off, I think Bournemouth would be more likely to get into that third or fourth position than Chelsea, just because they've shown the consistency of being able to have players drop in and out of the lineup and still keep the results up. Iraola has been absolutely fantastic this year.
Iraola has been very good. It's funny, man. Like, I've just been seeing, probably for like a month to 2 months at this point, a lot of people have just been kind of like what you're saying, where just waiting for Forest to drop all the way off, waiting for Forest to drop all the way off. And I'm not sitting here saying that they are going to be in it, at the end of the season in that top 4. But it's just funny, like, how long they've been able to kind of hang around, because Bournemouth, I feel like, have kind of been the opposite, where they started off like solid, they were good, and then they've kind of climbed the table over the course of the season, whereas Forest were like, they were. They've been as high as like 2nd at points this season. I think they're down in, they've lost 2 of their last 3, so that's kind of like a crack in the armor per se. But then I think in between those, they had a huge win against, didn't they beat
beat Brighton 7-0. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what do you do?
They also beat Exeter City on pens, so I think that was a good kickstarter for the season.
Yeah, well, look, United told me as long as you get to the next round, it doesn't matter how you do it, even if it's offside. So, but yeah, I mean, it's funny, Chelsea. You look at, I think the thing going into this season that was like, all right, or in the very beginning of the season when Chelsea started off hot, started out strong. I think the thing that was like, all right, this can be the difference maker for them was their attack, was how good their attack was. Like you said, Palmer was insane at the beginning of the season. I swear they were scoring 4 goals every single game, like that first 2 months of the season. They had like that 6-2 against Brighton or something, or against Wolves. They won like 6-2 or something crazy. That was Palmer scored 4 against Brighton. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they're and the problem is now that just seems like that's how many goals they're letting in. To be completely honest, but that's the thing. Their attack was like, Palmer was playing out of his mind. Nico Jackson started the year off insanely well. This was, we know Jadon Sancho, even though he wasn't doing anything, he was making a difference. And then Madueke, he had that hat trick in there, but at the same time, outside of that, wasn't really creating a whole lot. So it was really 2 guys carrying that attack. And then now Nico Jackson is injured for like a month to 2 months. This is going to mean Nkunku through the middle, or I guess maybe Mark Guiu on the odd appearance there. Neither one of which I think either of us are really excited about. Even though I'm definitely more of an Nkunku guy than you. I just don't think playing striker in the Premier League is going to make a lot of sense for him, to be completely honest. So
yeah, I think that's fair. Decent enough player, but I don't. Again, like you said, especially without the space that he's going to be able to exploit, like he was able to in the Bundesliga and Liga, and like it's not gonna. Yeah.
And it's weird because, like, how do Chelsea, like, and I get it, there are plenty of memes about, oh, they spent this much money and they've done this and that, and some of it's worked out decently well, some of it looks pretty stupid. But, like, how do you end up with, like, four fit attackers right now? You know, like, the only fit attackers they have are Nkunku, Guiu, Sancho,
Madueke.
and Neto. No, Madueke's injured.
Just got hurt. I'm saying from last game, Madueke just got hurt, and then Neto, like you said, and they got what's his face? They got Tyreek George.
Oh shit!
I actually kind of liked him when he came on against Brighton, but I mean, obviously that's not going to be a long-term solution. But yeah, I think they're just kind of caught in the middle ground, and it's going to kind of be hard for right now to punch above that, and that's why in the preseason I wasn't too high on them, because I'm like, I just don't think a team's going to go from like where they were last year in like that seventh sort of way, and they were punching up to seventh like near the end of the season, and I didn't think that they were going to be able to just put it all together and be like, all right, title charge or high UC, like guaranteed UCL. So Chelsea's season so far kind of hit or miss, but I think it's going to end up in probably that fifth or sixth range if I had to guess. Okay. So next question.
I'm nailing them on. I'm nailing them on for fifth. I'm nailing them on getting that fifth spot. They play Forest on the last day. I can already see how it's going to be. There's going to be a shit ton of momentum going against Chelsea in the game, where people are like, oh, no, Chelsea's too young. They're not ready to win this. Frank LaBeouf is on there talking about experience and how he needs warriors. And then Chelsea will win it, and somehow people will be more pissed.
And yes, I'll hold my hands up. I did say that Villa was going to finish third, and they're not going to finish that Champions League spot. Okay, we get it. Friend of the show, Jen Sippin, sent in a question. And it is... Oh, shit. I think it has a pretty simple answer, honestly, but we might use it to talk about the All-Star Weekend as a whole. It's how come the NBA hasn't implemented a 1v1 event like the women? Chad, what are your thoughts initially just hearing that question?
First off, Sippin' Gin, friend of the pod, always a good person to hear from. Future guest, hopefully. I think the reason why they don't do it is because the NBA players feel like there's too much of a chance that something embarrassing could happen to them when they're just out there trying to have... And even if it happened, like, let's say they were like, all right, next year it's starting, you know, you would... Like, first off, the level of guys that would be in it, you would automatically be pissed off. It'd be like the dunk
contest guys, basically. Like that kind of level of guy.
I mean, shit, I told you I watched all of All-Star Weekend. How is it that the dunk contest became the third tier of guys? Like, if you were to rank the actual players between all three events, all the bottom tier guys are the dunk contest guys. Like, even the skills challenge, you had Wemby, Draymond, who's a Hall of Famer, Chris Paul's
pedigree,
I mean, Donovan Mitchell and Mobley both made the All-Star team this year. Like, so we're talking about that level of guy, and then all the 3-point shootout. You know, Dame, Tyler Hero, Cade, you know, like those type of guys. Like those are all stars. So I just the one-on-one thing. I just don't think guys would really show up for it. Like, we saw this with the horse contest. On paper, perfect idea. Horse contest, man, this would be great. And it turned into Kevin Durant and Rondo just shooting jumpers.
Yeah.
Like, just shooting regular 17-footers because they both want to win. Which I can't blame them for, because that's what's gotten them, you know, to wherever they are in their career. But it just doesn't make for an entertaining piece. And I think... that question shows that the NBA is kind of grasping at straws to make the All-Star Weekend something again, because right now it's not much.
Yeah, it's just insane to me how like uncompetitive the NBA is. I know people make jokes about it and stuff, but it's like insane to me, because I have played at zero levels anywhere close to the NBA, and I've never made a single dollar from playing sports. But I just can't imagine. Like,
you didn't sign that NIL deal? That didn't go through?
They rescinded it last second. And I just couldn't imagine going to any game, all-star game, whatever, and not having like at least like 5% of me in the back of my mind like, yeah, I kind of want to win this game, or yeah, I'm going to try to do this, that, or the other, or like I'm going to try to at least embarrass this guy or do whatever. It's like I get it, like it's your off time, but you're just playing basketball. It's not like they're asking you to. I mean, shit, even like basketball is a sport. It's not like they're asking you to play like tackle football for 60 minutes. Like that one is the most understandable. It's like, yeah, if I'm a right guard, the last thing I want to do after the season is like have to pull on a draw play and crack an outside linebacker upside the head. That's the last thing I want to do after doing that for 18 weeks straight. So I get that, but like NBA, it's like absolutely. You're not even hitting each other. Like I'm not asking you to freaking box out and freaking go get the rebound and push it and transition and stuff. But can you at least try a little bit and not just like walk back on defense while someone throws a oop to someone who we know can dunk? Like it's not impressive. Oh, Giannis dunked on a oop. I've never seen that before. I mean, like shit. Yeah. So it's just like, especially, I guess I will bring this up because I watched the entire game last night. I watched USA Canada in the Four Nations face-off, which is literally in place of the All-Star game for the NHL. There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game. Like actual fights.
Explain the Four Nations thing to me slightly without losing 90% of the audience.
So Four Nations face-off, they kind of had the same idea where they were like, NHL All-Star game's kind of fallen off. What can we do in its place? Yep. They have this Four Nations face-off, which is a tournament of 4 countries: United States, Canada, Sweden, Finland. And they just basically make all-star teams of people from those countries, and they're in a tournament where they each play each other once. Top 2 teams go to the championship game, and they're kind of treating it as like an international tournament. I thought like maybe that could be something cool for the NBA, but I mean, let's be honest, not very patriotic people in the NBA outside of the Olympics.
We know who Gil's betting on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know they're not going to be like, and also like the level of like USA Canada could be kind of interesting, but like, especially if you're using just guys in the NBA, like USA France is like whatever. Like
Fournier starting at the 2.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like it gets awkward, but like literally like in these hockey games that are basically scrimmages, like these dudes are throwing full hits, they're fighting, they're like playing the U.S. national anthem and getting booed in Canada.
We've had the joke before, but I swear half of these soccer friendlies, the guys are playing harder than guys in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
That's what I'm saying, and it's like it just amazes me that the NBA has become so, and it just happened like overnight. I don't know what happened. Like someone just woke up in like 2017 or 2018 and was like, "Yep, even if I am getting paid for it, I'm probably still not gonna."
No, this is what happened. This is exactly what happened. There's one team that's at the heart of all of this, and no one brings it up. It's San Antonio. They were the first team to start resting people. You know, when Pop started doing it, it was like, oh man, this is great. He's resting Duncan 12 times a year. You know, not getting him over those 2,000 minutes in a season. You know,
that's
all
like
that stuff
early
was
2010s.
Great. Yeah, it was right around the time they were playing the Heat in the finals, like 13, 14, when Duncan was really getting up there in age.
And it was like clever when they were doing it. It was like, oh, they're stopping him from playing back-to-back. Now they can extend his career by 2 years, or, you know.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, and then kind of, I feel like then the next group of guys that did it was like LeBron and Wade were like the next group of like, all right, we're so good, we'll just hang off. We know we're going to be playing in June. You know, so we got to take some off. And plus, D. Wade was like,
I'm playing 50
public
games
enemy
a
number
year.
1 with that shit. Yeah, dude. And the crazy thing is, he didn't even extend his career any. The dude was still washed at like 34, even though I love D. Wade as a player. He was first team all accessory that year on Cleveland. I'll give him that. Whenever you have the shooting sleeve and then the T-shirt that are different colors, that's when you lose me. But yeah, so then they started resting, and then all of a sudden, then like it opened up to a whole nother pool of players. And then as we know, in the NBA, this just keeps happening. And like, if 2 star players know each other and they're on other teams, they're like, shit, you're resting tonight? Let me ask my team if I can rest. And I think sometimes one of the things we forget about is a lot of these guys are like 24 years old. You know, they're like 24-year-old millionaires who just so happen to be in charge of multi-billion-dollar franchises because of what they can do. So extremely impressionable, and I don't see it changing in the near future, but go ahead.
Well, also like that relativism that you were saying, like you wouldn't think that a guy like, I don't know, Jordan Poole, it's like he's not good enough to rest, but it's like, yeah, but he's our best player. So, like, what are we going to tell him? No, you can't rest? And everyone starts to feel that power. So it's like, even if you're rookie Cade Cunningham, it's just kind of like, my knee is not feeling 100%. I'm not. It's like, dude, you're 19,
and then there's always
play basketball.
There's always that weird balance between what's resting for, like, this guy's our best player, so we got to cater to him resting, versus, like, the tanking rest, where they're like, hey, we're going to shut this guy down just because we want to improve our draft pick.
Well, even that, the fact that the players themselves are kind of in on it is insane to me because, back when we had, what's it called, like honorable tanking, like around the time LeBron was getting drafted, it was like, okay, we're not going to like tank in the way we're going to rest players and stuff. We're just going to make our team so shitty that it actually physically can't. It actually can't win more than 20 games. It's not possible. These guys could play their hearts out. They could. Our coach could play our stars for 48 minutes. There's actually no way they can win more than 20 games. Like we saw, me and Chad's favorite maybe piece of content ever is the Bill and Jalen preview of the 13-14 NBA season. I mean, the Sixers roster, like every single one of their starters wouldn't play for a single playoff team. Like none of them.
I mean, they had Jason Richardson in the rotation, and Bill literally said he's out for the season, but on crutches, he might be their 10th best player, and he wasn't wrong.
They were under the salary cap floor. They literally weren't spending enough money to meet the CBA's requirements. So it was just like, all right, see, that's tanking. Tanking is the organization makes the team so bad that the guys are trying their hardest to win, but they just suck. Now guys are like, let's see, it's December, and we're already 15 games under 500. Yeah, I'm just not going to play for the rest of the year.
I think the difference now is the NBA, they're like the talent level in the league since that 2013-14 season to now, the guys are like so much more skilled. Like think of how many centers and stuff, like, not even centers, like even wings who like Thabo Cephalosha was a guy who didn't get guarded one possession in his entire time in OKC.
And he could just be part of a team that was trying to win the title and play 35 minutes a night for him.
I was going to say, be a part of the team. He was in their closing and starting five.
And it was bad that actually when he left, they brought in Roberson to do the exact same thing. Not make a shot and play defense.
Exactly.
And that was like 8 years ago.
Like it all of a sudden went from, you can have two guys on the floor who maybe aren't offensive guys. And then it was like, now you can have one guy who's not really an offensive guy. And like, now you have to have all five guys on the floor be an offensive threat in some way, pretty much for 48 minutes, which is the crazy part about the game today. So,
dude, Rudy was averaging like 15 a game, and people were like, yeah, can we play him in crunch time? He's the best defender in the entire NBA, and he averages 15. And we don't know if we can play him in crunch time. Like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Like, that's how
these teams kind of have to like force like when you were talking about the other ones where they're like, hey, we're just building the shittiest team we possibly can, and we're winning 18 games. Now, granted, if we're saying the talent around the league is better, obviously the better teams are better as well.
But it's closer. I just think, it used to be like this, and now it's like this.
Exactly. So you kind of have to make those decisions to force guys, or not force, but like rest guys instead of just like having a horrible roster. So
yeah, because you can just accidentally look up in like April, and it's like, why do we have 35 wins? Why are we in the play-in right now?
I mean, dude, the Nets had the second lowest over/under in the NBA going into this season. I think it was 18.5. Them and the Sixers have the same record at 24-30, and it's like, the Nets have a good coach, like Jordi Fernandez, who was a guy who, when they got hired, I was like, he had been kind of talked about in circles as like a international candidate for an NBA head coaching job, and I was like, okay, whatever, like they'll probably be horrible and he'll get screwed and then get fired after 2 years. Yeah, exactly, get fired after 2 years because they went 30-200 or something like that. But he came in and he's been awesome. So, like, that's the thing. If you have a decent coach and then it's like, shit, we got all this talent, it's like we actually have to make moves to be bad half the time.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, is that the 1v1 competition wouldn't work just because everybody is so. I mean, the money's higher, which makes people less competitive because they're like, "Hey, I'm going to make $50 million a year whether I do this or not," and people are starting to think about their career. I mean, we need to do an episode on the fact that people have rested more now than ever, and they've gotten hurt more than ever. But that's
100%.
That's that. 100%. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. Why don't you hit us with another one of the questions that you got? I heard Sia.na sent one in.
Shit. We can go to hers actually. Real simple. Mine are actually all mostly soccer, so I didn't mean to stick with that theme, but that's where we're going. Who are your top wonder kids? Now, these are something where I'm really passionate about because I, for whatever reason, have been following. Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like the only one that still plays the soccer video game, so I like to see the development of guys. But when we're talking wonder kids, we're talking probably like 20 and under for the most part across Europe. Do you have some guys that come to mind initially? Outside of course, we know the first two you're going to name, so just go ahead and get them out the way.
I mean, Ethan Winery and Miles Lewis-Skelly would start for any team in the world right now. So, no, I'm just kidding.
That's a big call. That's a big shot.
Definitely Ethan Winery and Miles Lewis-Skelly, and the way that. So the whole Wonder Kid thing is that it needs to be like tightened up a little bit because
100%.
People pretend
Jesse Lingard's not a Wonder Kid anymore.
I was just telling Savannah about his ass, like his career arc earlier today, and I was like, because literally and I used to buy into this when I was a young kid. It's like every single time a 17-year-old makes 2 appearances, whether they play well or not, it's just like, oh. New Man United starlet Toby Collier. It's like, is he a starlet, or is he just like, hey, we have no players, so you have to play? So, if we're saying 20 and under, I would say those. Let's make a Mount Rushmore. I would honestly, if I was making a Mount Rushmore of young talents in world football, I'd honestly put both of them on there, along with Lamine Yamal. And then, God, this gets hard because that's like I mean, I guess Pau Kubarsi. So I guess, you know what? I'm going to take that Mount Rushmore, and I'm going to disqualify them. And I'm going to disqualify them.
Thank you. I was going to say, we almost need to have like a, like how when you said we got to, I think we got to do that even a little bit more because to me, another part of like the Wonder Kid thing is like.
You're not already an established bro.
Yeah, like you talked about, when you say Lamine Yamal as Wonder Kid, it's crazy because he's 17, but I'm like, I don't even think of him in that way anymore. I just think of him as like, where is he compared to the other best players in the world at his position? Not the other kids his age, because I already know that he's way better than any of those guys. So, yeah, I would say maybe more.
Well, one guy that I've been more interested in recently because he's been linked with an Arsenal move is what's his name? Like Severe. What the hell is his name? The dude from Rosenborg, I think.
Fill
the time until I can talk.
No, because I well, I'm not going to talk about that guy, but I think he's a perfect example of a guy who is not nearly at a big club yet. Really, just broke onto the scene. I'm pretty sure last year. I don't know the guy's name.
It's very Naipan. Yeah, he's a 2006 birthday, so he just turned 18 like 2 months ago, and he has basically started every game since he made his debut in May of 2023. Played 23 games in the Elite Serie last year, which is a Norwegian league. Played 23 games, scored 5 goals from midfield. This year, 28 games, 8 goals. And they I think they do it by year. I think they have like a weird start time. They're not on the same calendar as the rest of Europe. But apparently he's really good. I don't know. I'll be forever skeptical, I guess, of these guys from not even like that second tier of leagues because they're the top 5 leagues, and then there's kind of like Portugal, Netherlands,
Eredivisie,
where it's kind of like everyone recognizes that there's talent there, but it's not exactly the same level. Yeah. But then those like third tier leagues, when you get into like the Swedish league and the Norwegian league and the Danish league and the Greek league and Liga and like leagues like that, I was skeptical, but also exciting because what I've been screaming out for, and we're going to get onto this a little bit later, but what I've been screaming out for, what I think our biggest miss is in our Arsenal team right now is a goal-scoring midfielder. And if this kid really is supposed to be that...
That's Marino.
Well, he only scores when he plays up front, so...
Fair enough.
But this kid, apparently, I mean, he's 6 foot tall, so it's not like he's like just this little dude that's running around there. Because those guys are also like kind of on my hit list. Like any guy that's like 5'7" and sick, I'm sorry, I'm just not excited by that guy.
Joao Neves breaks that whole cycle.
Yeah, that's one guy. That's literally one guy. I guarantee you that Paez
that's Suatowski.
That Paez dude.
Kendry?
The dude that the like Ecuadorian dude that plays for that got bought by Chelsea like 3 years ago, and he's about to move there like this upcoming summer. I'm just not excited by him because I don't think he's going to particularly do amazing things there. So I think kind of guys in that sort of vein are going to be the guys that I would more think of. And of course my boy Giorgio Scalvini, who Italian defenders I'll kind of always buy, and I've seen him play a couple of times, and I've been infinitely impressed with his ability on the ball as well as his physical profile at such a young age. So I guess those would be the two that I'd kind of identify as guys that I actually somewhat believe in as far as wonder kids. But then Scalvini will get a Liverpool move in 2 years and shit himself, and then...
Well, shoot, Scalvini, man. Talk about a dude who's just had a terrible run recently had the torn ACL, came back from the torn ACL, and immediately went out for the season with that shoulder injury right as he was starting to put together a run again for Atalanta. Mm-hmm. I think I'm right there with you on him. I think he's just one of the most kind of composed youngsters. And I do think with younger center backs, it does obviously help when they're playing a back three.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think you've seen in his Italy performances that he's comfortable enough to be like he can be flexible in a back three or a back four.
What are your thoughts on what has happened so far with Warren Zaire-Emery's career? I know that he had a torn ACL recently. He had a big injury recently. I forgot. Not like recently, like within the past couple of weeks, but like.
I was gonna say, did he?
Did he?
I know he came back from a minor injury. I'll tell you, the thing about Zaire Emery is I really liked him when he burst onto the scene. He was kind of as more of a, it's so funny how many of these midfielders kind of burst onto the scene as like an emergency fullback replacement, which is kind of what Lewis Skelly has done. Mm-hmm. As well. But like I saw Zaire Emery playing as like a right back / right wing back under Pochettino when he was just crying out for anyone to get someone to run around, for PSG behind that front three that they had. So that's where he kind of came on. And then since then, he's become a lot more cultured on the ball, I think, than I was ready for. I thought he was more of a energetic, more of a hard man type, almost like Gavi, but like a bit better. And I just think he's been way more calm on the ball, very progressive in his passing, like a guy who has I wouldn't say a full range of passing or a full passing range, but is a guy who sees the field forward really well and is one of those like mobile destroyer types who can really win the ball in transition really well. Like I like Zaire Emery a lot, and I could easily see him being like the PSG captain once Marquinhos leaves in like 12 months, 24 months.
Yeah, that's interesting. Quickly before we moved on, because again, I'm trying not to get too bogged down in any of these questions, but your two boys who are maybe kind of on that wonder kid radar, Endrick and Gouler, I know obviously they don't really get the minutes because I've seen a lot of Carlo hate on Twitter recently about like how he doesn't give anybody minutes other than like the same 11. So What are your thoughts on maybe what their career trajectory will be, or sort of what their level is now?
Yeah, I think it's weird. Like, Guler is like, he's been kind of pushed as like he's one of these top wonder kids, like elite guys, top level, all the like, you know, guaranteed going to be, you know, Ballon d'Or type. And obviously, as we know, none of these guys are like a guarantee to do anything. But could, like, people think he's going to reach that top level, and I just don't see it as much. Like, technically, does he have passing range? Yes. Does he have an ability to strike a ball from outside the area? Yes. But I just don't think, and I hate to say it about, you know, someone his age, but like, he just doesn't have that, like, that oomph. Like, whatever that oomph that you need is.
You know what it is. What doesn't he have? That you need to be
He doesn't have dog factor.
No.
He doesn't have dog factor.
Me and you talk about it all the time, that people underrate people that don't, like, they try to pretend that this specific thing is not a prerequisite to be an elite footballer.
I don't know. You're gonna have to. I'm not an elite footballer.
He doesn't have any elite athletic ability. People try to pretend all the time that there can be that they're gonna be truly elite players that have no athleticism whatsoever. Even guys that you would think like, oh, David Silva, Xavi, Iniesta. You can count those guys. You can count those guys that are playing at once on one hand, that are that level and don't rely on athleticism as much because of how good they are technically. But even them have elite quickness, elite agility, and elite understanding of space to where they're not going to get themselves in too many situations. I mean, even this dude Iniesta was like a left winger for multiple seasons for Barca. So let's not pretend that this dude was just like walking around the pitch or anything like that. So I think that people underrate so much having elite athleticism as being like I mean, look at all the best players in the world. You think of guys like Vinny. You think guys like Mbappe. You think guys like Erling Haaland. You think of guys like,
even Saka, I think, is way more athletic than he gets credit for.
Saka, Lamine Yamal, Mo Salah, like all these guys have elite. Even if you think of like the best center backs, you think of guys like Saliba. You think of guys like Van Dijk. You think of guys like Rudiger. And those guys are all
guys that can run.
They're all elite athletes. They can run. They can jump. They're strong. All this stuff. And people try to pretend that that's not part of the package when it definitely is. And that's what I think is going to hold back Arda Güler. He's not particularly fast. He's obviously not like strong like those wingers that we were talking about, like Salah, Saka. And he's very good technically, but he's just not going to, like, look at Hakim Ziyech, who might be one of the best technical players I've ever seen, but doesn't have any elite athleticism, and that's why he kind of never really broke through at that top level, in my opinion. Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony's killed it, and now he's killed it in Spain so far.
I say now he's playing for Betis and found his level.
Yeah, he did, because I think Spain is a lot more of a technical based league than it is athletic based, and that's why I think a guy like Endrick, who obviously you worry about long term for the minutes, I think like he just kind of has shown in his short cameo appearances that, one, he does have the burst of pace when he needs it. He has the ability to be physical against guys. Like, I've seen him knock guys over that are like, you know, grown men, you know, and I'm not just saying like shove guys and push them to the ground, but like, you know, physically, like body to body, like he just pushes them to the ground when they're going after the same ball. You know, and I've seen like he has that. I mentioned dog factor earlier, but he has that dog factor, like he just does. So I think he's like gonna be really good. His biggest thing is he needs to work on his decision making and kind of his understanding of the space. Like, he's got the energy, he's got the mentality, just needs to really refine the knowledge part, which I think would be fine.
I think he learned that dog factor from watching Bobby Moore. Or Bobby Charlton growing up. So,
his boy.
So
exactly.
Here's one that, personal question from @SavannahCook88. Thank you, avid listener of the podcast. This is for you because I think she knows the answer for me. But it says, rate your Valentine's Day meal that you had this year.
Wow, this is awesome. Okay. You know, definitely one of my favorite things, food, so I'm going to go in depth for a little minute. Cena and I, this was kind of the first year where we didn't, I would say, like, really didn't do anything big at all for Valentine's Day. We just kind of were at the house. We did get some food, though, from this new halal place in Hampton called Shah's Halal Food. Now, not exactly what you'd be thinking about for a Valentine's Day meal, but this is what she wanted more than anything. So that's what ended up happening. I got the chicken and lamb over rice with the little salad on the side. Not on the side, but like on the side of it's in the little platter thing, and it's like off the part of it. With the white sauce, no doubt. I did get the hot sauce. And then Cena got mad at me, but I threw a little bit of barbecue sauce on there as well. So, threw a little bit of barbecue. They had it, and I was like, you know what, let me go for it. Also got that with a side of fries. So, and then you just mix the fries in. And I gotta say, this was so good. Like, that was my first time ever having halal food. Had seen it plenty of times. Actually, the Fung Bros were the first ones that I saw posting about it. And I was like, man, that looks really good. It was awesome. It was awesome. And I'm definitely going back. And today, actually, on that we're recording Sunday, February 16th, the last day where they're doing $7 platters. So,
shit, I might have to hop over there real quick.
I'm saying, man, it's worth it. It's worth it. So I would have to say the meal, I'd probably give it a 9 because I also washed it down with a cold Sprite too, which is just like,
dude, I haven't had a Sprite in like months.
I know, me either. That's why I was like, when I did get one, it was like, man, kind of crazy. So I'm gonna give a 9, and I know that was a little more in depth probably than what we were looking for, but I still want to hear your answer, even though she already knows it. Tell the people.
Yeah, huge shout to Savannah. I thought we were going to cook this meal together, and then I kind of just looked up, and she had kind of made the whole thing already while we were just hanging in the kitchen. So we definitely went at home, like you said, steaks. That were actually
what
made
cut?
like,
what cut?
It's fantastic.
Or do you
question.
not know?
I would assume it'd be a ribeye because that's what she tends to get. So
okay,
ribeye. I peppered the shit out of it. That was the only thing that I was put in charge of. She was like, hey, can you put this pepper on? Because I have meat hands. And I was like, yeah, I got you. And I was going no diddy for like...
I was going to say,
for like 2 minutes. So, which... Yeah, so...
no smooth transition there, but we'll allow
exactly. It. So we went steak, and then like baby potatoes cut up, broccoli, and... She got me this she crab soup for Valentine's. That was like kind of one of my presents. So of course she got to have some for herself. And then we washed all that down. We also had Caesar salad and washed that down with some rum punches, some rum punch stuff we had still left over from my birthday a couple weeks ago. So it was a 10 out of 10 meal. Also ended up having a smoothie bowl that night, which is another thing she got me for Valentine's Day, which is, again, why she had one as well. So my Valentine's Day presents kind of ended up being our Valentine's Day presents. But I'll hold my hands up and say I've been eating some of her Ghirardelli chocolates that I got her for Valentine's Day. So
yeah, it's like when you throw the Christmas gift under the tree that you really want for yourself, but you get it for like, you know, the kid or whatever, and it's like, oh man, can't return it. There's no tag. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I tell you, I've been on smoothies a lot recently. So you saying that smoothie bowl? I've been, for whatever reason, we've had hella frozen fruit in the house recently. I've been on that.
Yeah. So it was a good Valentine's Day this year. Kept it pretty chill.
Yeah, chill was definitely the vibe this year.
I went homemade card X, big ass thing of Ghirardelli dark chocolate variety pack X, wine, bottle of wine. So kept it pretty simple. She got me again those smoothie bowls and that she crab soup, and then also some sushi for lunch that day. So packed that in my lunch. So that was nice. Yeah, it's always good to keep things simple on Valentine's Day. I think you kind of look like a little bit of a noob if you're going too hard on Valentine's Day. It looks like you guys just started going out. But I will say on my freshman haul, literally like 8 Valentine's Day proposals before First Block even started. Like guys going up to girls with like these signs and baskets and shit saying like, "Will you be my Valentine?" And shout out my boy Dale if you're listening to this. Shout out to my boy Dale. Apparently he came with like all the stuff, and then his girl didn't even show. So then he went home rather than just carry the stuff around all day. So shout out to him for putting in the effort. But is there anything more ninth grade than a Valentine's Day proposal? I don't think so. So.
No, there's not. There's not. And look, it started off with the prom proposals way back in the day, and then it's just kind of evolutionized from there. So can't say much more. Real quick, I will run down since you did yours. I got seen a nice card from Target. Had to go with the. She really loves the Ferrero Rocher chocolate. Mm-hmm. So I had to get her a thing of those, and then. She's huge into the mini brand scene, so got that as well. You don't know about them. Yeah, they're like a toy, basically, but I don't want to say toy. And she got me a very nice pair of shoes that I needed for work that I've been needing for a good 6 months. But
she got you a real pair of Sean Witherspoons to go along with that fake-ass pair that you had?
No. You know what's so funny about that is I got her a pair of Jordans one time when we were like maybe like a year into dating, and she just doesn't wear them as much as I would want. So
I think that's the classic early relationship thing is like getting something.
And I'll be honest, the purchase was more for me than it was for her anyway. Like I was just like.
Or something?
No. But just like in my mind, for whatever reason, I was just like, I wanted to get her something like that.
Yeah.
And
I did the same thing. Like Savannah, I think it was her first birthday we were together. I got her like an $80 Nike jacket when I was like 16. So it was like a pretty big purchase for me. And I'm almost 100% sure she hasn't worn it. She didn't wear it a single time. It was like a black and white Nike zip up. That was pretty thin. It was like
it cost us money, but we learned to just listen to the women on that one. Just listen to what they tell us they want, and then just get that.
Well, not to turn this into relationship corner, but it's like you kind of hit an inflection point in a relationship where it's like you kind of go from, oh, he should know what I want, or he should come up with something, to just being like, hey, this is what I want. And then I feel like you kind of have to do a combination where it's like you get her 2 or 3 things that she wants because she asked for it.
Yeah.
And then maybe throw in like one nice surprise. Be like, hey, I thought you also might like this. But that thing can't be too big. Because if you go all in on like your...
And then it's not good.
Yeah, then it's like, shit. Like your I don't know if she would like this thing should be like a food or like a gift card or like something like that. Where it's like, I thought you might like this, so boom. Like, so for example, this
or maybe like an accessory that goes with one of the main things that you know she did want.
Yeah, so like
that way it doesn't ruin her enjoyment of the main thing.
Like if she wanted a pair of shoes, for example, very specifically, and then like your side gift could be like, oh, I thought you might like this shoe cleaning kit to make sure that these things don't get messed up. And it's like, oh, okay. And it was only like $15 for me, and she may or may not use it, but it doesn't really matter because it kind of shows that you're staying on theme. So we need to do relationship more often.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that could be the side business. That could be the side business for us. All right, let's give me another question that you have, though. I want you to go back to back like Drizzy.
Let's see. This is a question that I have for you. So this is the one that I came up with. There's 2 good ones that I really have, but let's go with this one because I'm really interested to see where you're going to go with this question. If we could have any guest on the pod, dead, alive, famous, anyone other than Jen Sippin, because we're going to have him on. So, like, who would it be for entertainment purposes or their analytical minds or whatever it may be? What if it's like, hey, this person on the podcast next week, it is this person.
God, okay, so there are like 50 things going through my head when you ask that, but the first thing I would want to think about is ego. That would be the number one thing I would think about with the guest.
So because I wouldn't want.
No. No. Like, if it's just me and I'm like, hey, we're getting Gilbert on right now, and like, Gilbert's gonna be whatever, like, chill, but that's not gonna happen. So the first thing I'm thinking about is ego. Like, who's gonna come on and be like, hey, you know what? I mean, look, there are 100 different like hoops to jump through between like who I'm choosing and like how it would like eventually happen that they would get on, but like, they're just like, hey, heard of this podcast? They reached out to me. I'm saying yes. Like, I just want to go on, chop it up, whatever. I think this is going to be a very rogue answer, and you might not even... Well, I think you know who this guy is. But I'm going to go with Steve Cerruti, one of the producers of the Ryan Russillo podcast.
Is this the Magic fan?
Yeah. Magic Cerruti. Because he's just... Like, one, he was in the ESPN scene, so he knows a lot of that stuff. He's in the Ringer scene now, so he would be able to answer a lot of questions I would have, probably more off camera, about the Bill Russillo relationship. That I'd spend like half an hour before the pod. Actually, I'd probably do it after, because I'd want to warm him up first, and then maybe get him talking on the back end of it. Pause if applicable. But I think he would be not a guy who comes on and is like so like full of himself to the point where he's just like giving generic BS answers. Like, would really have a real conversation with us. And he's into the same kind of sport, the 3-sport thing that we are, where it's like basketball, soccer, and then a bit of football, So I feel like we would it would actually make a lot of sense to get him on. So, Cerruti, no chance you're listening, but if you ever do, just know I asked for you on the pod on February 16th, 2025.
I'll DM him later.
Hey, I might
have a pretty high hit rate of
tweeting
about celebrities and getting a tweet back, so I'm 1 for 1.
Hey, we just say we're 100%. You don't say 1 for 1.
Yeah.
But can you go ahead and answer that too? Because I think I spent a lot of time and probably gave an underwhelming answer that 90% of people aren't going to even know who he is. So I'm sure you can come up with something better.
So this person kind of ticks all the boxes kind of that you were talking about, but also adds like the actual true celebrity factor. And I think it'd be Bukayo Saka, because he's like probably the most humble big celebrity that I've really seen, in the sense that like he seems to be always doing something not for himself. Like, he always seems... I mean, he was at the Arsenal women's game today, the Arsenal women's North London derby. He's always like going back to Hale End to like say what's up to the young kids. He's always like going to some hospital and doing all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like he'd be a guy that you could actually like. He's still media trained, but he's still like got enough personality to where it'd actually be interesting. And then obviously like interviewing the best player from my favorite club would be like the dream. And then I want to feel like he'd probably get some good press off of it. So. Probably get that subscriber count at least up to 56 once we had him on an episode. So that'd be a nice side hustle as well.
I'm gonna flip it on you real quick. I'm gonna give you 4 people. I'm gonna give you 4 names, and you have to have one of these 4 on the pod. Which one are you choosing and why? No. These are all athletes that you would know, I guess, would be the only way to describe all of them.
I have to have one, or I have to rank them?
No, just one. I wouldn't make you rank them. That'd be too much. You have to have one on the pod. Angel Reese, Mikey Williams, Jello, or Michael Porter Jr. I mean, you have to have one of the 4 on for like a good hour and a half. Can't just do like a 20-minute interview. Got to go the full 90, which you're not used to doing.
I mean, I feel like the first 2 are automatically out. Like, You know when you're taking a test when you're a kid and you just cross out the answers that you
out
know
of
it's
4
not.
are definitely wrong.
So it's definitely those two are definitely out. Angel Reese and Mikey Williams. There's no way.
Okay.
And then I would probably go. Actually, I take that back. Angel Reese is out and Jello's out. And Jello's out for sure. Okay, those two are definitely out.
God.
The reason why Mikey Williams is back in. Okay, let me get my rationale for why I'll talk through it. So Mikey Williams,
audience is on the edge of their seat right now.
I would love to kind of ask him about the whole child prodigy aspect of his life, because I feel like he's probably had at least some perspective now on how that's affected him in some way. I mean, I think he was one of those people that also was going out with someone that was 30 when he was 18. He was one of those guys too. So I think he'd kind of have some cool insight for young people for what that's young fame would do. But Michael Porter Jr. would just be jokes, man, because this dude just doesn't give a damn. And he's he was on that one podcast that one time. It was I think it was a female interviewing him, and he was would you beat so and so in a game of 1-on-1? He was what do you some WNBA player? He's what do you mean? She's would you beat her? He's she wouldn't score. What do you mean would I beat? I was just so that would kind of be jokes. I would actually the only way I would have Michael Porter Jr. on is if Angel Reese was also on. If I could have both, if they're a package deal, I would get both of them on. But if it's just one, I would definitely go Mikey, because I think he could actually have some pretty interesting perspective on that part of his life. And then also, I think we would get some good Jalen Hurts level quotes of fake deepness, where he'd be realize, realize, realize type of stuff. And it's kind of and it'd be hilarious for me personally. All right, let me flip it on you, okay?
God, okay, all right. Uno
Nick
reverse.
Young, Gil,
God. Okay.
Shaq, but you can only add the only thing the topic of the Shaq show is who's better between Kobe and LeBron. Okay?
Okay.
Or
God,
who's the fourth one? Who's the fourth one? Or Brittany Griner.
So you're saying between Nick Young and Gil?
God, that's a tough blow for Shaq.
No, because Shaq would just be I saw Kobe come in and do it every day. I just did, and it's dude, you guys hated each other for 5 years. What are you talking about? And then he'd probably start crying or something, and then it'd just be.
Then you look like an ass for just asking a legitimate question.
Exactly. The Brittany Griner one, I'll just say I'm good. Although, I mean, if you're going the Mikey Williams route of you would have some stories
how was it in Russia?
She's definitely. That, and how does it feel to know you have better trade value than Bradley Beal? Would be another. God, I mean, honestly, all jokes aside, the Brittany Griner one might actually be it, because she's easily
the most accomplished in her
athlete.
sport.
Yeah, most accomplished, no doubt. Well, yeah, I mean, Shaq.
Of the three left
Shaq's
over,
out. Yeah. Shaq is out automatically. There's nothing that would get me to change my mind on that one if we can only talk Kobe Bron. And then she has the crazy range of stuff too. So I might actually. I mean, yeah, because I would definitely I would do the Brittany Griner one, because I think also a huge part of it is I would try and ask as many stories about how crazy Kim Mulkey is as possible, because I guarantee you she just was probably if you've ever seen her press conferences, you could see there are some crazy stories. So I would actually do the Brittany Griner one. I'm not mad at that. Unexpected, but
I think getting Nick Young on to just troll him, I think would be funnier because it'd be
the thing is, like, it sounds awesome in theory, but then you actually get on and he just like, what you mean? Like, Kobe is the best player of all time. How? Bro, he dropped 81 against the Raptors. And then it's just like, all right, where do you go from there?
Sounds like, better than Wilt.
Mamba mentality, like, he did that shit. Like, come on, bro.
That's the Michael Me shit, too, is the crazy part.
So, Nick Young definitely no. Like, honestly, if you're saying they eliminate two, using your school theory, I think Shaq and Nick Young are the two that are eliminated, no doubt.
Shout out Gil for getting silver.
Because Gil, at least, if you listen to the Gil's Arena, like, and maybe it's just because it's his show, but he is like the halfway rational one out of the rotating group of him, Kenyon Martin, Brandon Jennings, Nick Young, and whoever that overweight, light-skinned dude is.
Well, McCants is also in there.
And Rashad McCants, who's just the worst interview of all time. He'd be 3 millionth on my list.
This dude made the funniest video of all time, though, saying that AI would have averaged 45 in today's game if James Harden averaged 35. And his rationale was...
McCants said this?
No, your boy
Gil.
Just
someone.
Gil.
Oh, Gil.
Because his argument was that James Harden dribbled twice as much per game than AI. So if AI was allowed that many dribbles, then he would have scored.
As if dribbling is like what unlocks points.
Correct. Then if he was allowed to dribble as much as James Harden was, then he would score like 45. So in his also the second part of his rationale was like he'd shoot 2 more threes than he like the season he averaged 35. He kind of used that as like his jumping off point. He's like he would have shot like 3 more threes, probably would have made one of them. So okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So we're talking about 1 more point.
And then he probably, because the league's so soft, would have made or would have shot like 4 more free throws. And so somehow, some way, that adds 10 points onto his game. If he dribbles more, gets the line 2 more times, and shoots and makes 1 more three, somehow equals like 10 to 12 extra points a game.
Yeah, see, so that's why I'm just good on Gil. Like I'm good on Gil. So
all right,
Brittany Griner, arguably runaway champion there.
Let's not get bogged too much down. Let's go one more question each, because actually I want to do mine really quickly because I don't want to end on this, but. Metro Barton.
I got a 2-piece combo from Johnny Ryder at the end to finish on.
Perfect. So your boy Metro Barton sent this in, said, what do the Larson boys think of the Ohio State championship run? I know you didn't really keep up too much with college football, so I don't want to really do too much, because I also don't want to talk too much about Ohio State winning the national championship since they beat my Texas Longhorns in the semifinal. Me quickly, I guess I'll say... I guess if I were to give like a real answer, I think it kind of shows a lot of where the game actually is won and lost now.
If I had to give a real answer.
In college football, because you would think that it'd be much more like transfer driven, but really a lot of the players that made a lot of plays for Ohio State were players in-house that they developed in-house, and like younger players like Jeremiah Smith. You know, you think guys like Jack Sawyer, guys like Egbuka. I mean, these are guys that have been there for a decent amount of time, both offensive and defensive lines. Guys that have been there for a long time. Really, the only big transfer that they had in, or the 2 big transfers they had in, were Caleb Downs, who's maybe the best player in college football now that Travis Hunter's not there anymore. And then the quarterback, Will Howard, who's still not good, but you know, I guess he made a couple of throws along the way.
Looked good. Had a good playoff run. I mean, like you said, wasn't tapped into him as much as anybody else, but you know, was definitely a guy who made a bunch of huge throws and was highly accurate for them in the playoff run. So it was so fascinating to me because of the swoon that Ohio State went through in like a 2-month span, because you know, the whole, like, I swear every year Ohio State comes into the season as like, hey, you know, this team is going to win its title, or Yeah, unbeatable. It's title or bust. They almost remind me not to make this a shot because I know you like this guy and this team, but it almost reminds me of like the Buffalo Bills early in the season, where like I remember 2 years ago they started off like 5-0, and Bill Simmons was like, "Can they go 18-0?" And it was like, dude, they ended up sneaking out the division in the last game of the season, and that says more about Bill's stuff than more about Bill Simmons than it does about the Buffalo Bills.
Right,
but. You know the point I'm trying to make. Like, they always come into the season as, like, the heavy favorite, and then it's like, oh, shoot, they lost a game. Oh, man, now they crumbled, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then they lose that Michigan game where it just straight up looked like they got out-physical, like, outplayed on both lines of scrimmage. Didn't seem like Michigan didn't have nearly the talent Ohio State did. And then, you see them in that Tennessee game in the playoff in the first half, and you're like, oh, shoot, they might have figured it out. And then the question is, can they be consistent? And then all of a sudden they were consistent for
Oregon.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, yeah, exactly. Then they kill the number one team, and not kill them, final score obviously 20.
Oh, no, they killed them. It was like 35-0 at halftime.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going to say the first half was, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, they put together 4 super consistent games, and now they were the champion. And I think that says what college football is about to be now. It's not necessarily... it's a little more the NFL-ish, where it's not, hey, who was the best team from week 1 to week 15? Yeah, it was who was the best team from week 12 through, the end of the playoff. So,
yeah,
could be fascinating to see moving forward.
Definitely interesting, and there's your shout-out, Metro Barton. Haven't seen you in a while. Miss you, man.
Me either.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't seen him since that night, since prom night. No noise. All right, so I want to hear this Johnny Ryder doubleheader to get us signed off. We've been going for about 70 minutes. Let's get some solid stuff from Big Jono, who was getting some hate in the TikTok comments. Someone said it looks like he was recording it on a potato, which I loved it. And I know Johnny, he's a good sport, so I know he'll take that one on the chin.
I'm telling you, me and Ethan agree on this. As long as the sound quality is there, which it definitely was for him, the video, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Watching the videos on YouTube like this,
right? Yeah, exactly, exactly. You got it while you're on your drive, or I don't know what people are doing when they're listening,
playing video games, something like that.
So he's got the important part down. Leave Johnny alone. He's a key person. He's a key figure. His first question, though, I'll throw the softball one. Actually, I'll go with the more complicated question first, but I think we'll probably give a quicker answer.
Yeesh.
What will Aaron Rodgers be doing in September 2025? Silence. Just silence.
Like, unless this dude is in, like, crippling debt, I just don't understand why he would play football. Like... So this is a guy that clearly has never really cared too much about, like, his teammates once he's become a star. He's never really truly cared about... doesn't come across a guy that, like, cares about, like, legacy and stuff like that. So I don't think he's going to want, like, a Tom Brady 2021 type of run. Like, I don't think he's going to care too much about that. And also, he's just past it. So I don't think from his perspective or really any team's perspective that he would make much sense. I mean, if you think about teams that are at the level where Aaron Rodgers would actually help them, all those teams kind of either have a quarterback or have a guy that can at least, I mean, shit, at this point, probably can do everything that Aaron Rodgers would be able to do. I mean, even the freaking Cowboys, like, you're not getting off Dak's contract, but even if you could, like, are you really going to say, like, 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to unlock it? Like, no. I mean, teams like the Vikings are now looking to see if they can do this J.J. McCarthy thing, and I just think there are too many teams. Like, he would only go to, and that kind of a team would only want him if they were like a quarterback away from contending. And I don't really think any of those teams would look at 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers and be like, yeah, I want that guy to take us to the promised land.
Let me just start. Yeah, let me just start throwing teams at you just to see if any of them, maybe make you make a face in any sort of way. Hold on. I had the list
Carolina?
up, but then it moved. Well, the funny thing is Bryce Young actually wasn't.
I kind of liked him the last month of the season.
Yeah, I was gonna say he ended the year. He was able to keep his job, thankfully.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Detroit. No,
No.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I'm locked in.
Mahomes replacement couldn't get it done in the bowl. No. All right. Serious now. Pittsburgh.
No.
All right. Indy.
I don't think they're just a quarterback away, so I'm going to say no. And also, they've already played this game with Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers.
Correct. Vegas, if they don't get Shador.
I mean, no, because I don't think they're a quarterback away from, I guess, getting the number 1 pick. So I guess if that's their goal, then maybe.
All right, the last team, the only team that I think, if they, I'll just say it, the San Francisco 49ers.
You're going to say that. Okay, so the Niners make sense for 2 reasons. Number 1.
Yep.
He's going back to Cali, and for some reason, people care about that. So that's number 1.
Media people, not any actual athlete has ever once said that they want to go back home.
Except when KD was going home in 16.
Hey, chill. We still got a seat open for him on the roster.
So one, the whole going home thing, he actually might care about that, so he can smoke weed or something like that, and probably sue the league for trying to suspend him for when he gets caught. So that's
have an ashwagandha overdose.
No. And then number 2, they probably are. I mean, I don't and this is gonna sound crazy, but is 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers that big of an upgrade on Brock Purdy? Is his deal up this year?
Yeah, so this is my rationale.
That's the inflection point. Is that it's kind of you're paying one or the other. So,
and my thing is the only thing that would make you say it would make sense, because obviously Purdy's going to be playing a lot more football than Rodgers.
Well, it's going to be Rodgers on a 1-year deal, probably on pretty big money, versus giving Purdy $200 million for 5 years or something like that. Giving him the T-Law contract.
And that's the other thing is, I think if you're Rodgers, you kind of got to be honest with yourself, maybe, and maybe he's I'll do which is, again, already risky, saying Rodgers has to be honest with himself. Could you go and say, hey, I'll sign a 1-year deal for $10 million, and then that allows San Francisco, a team with bad cap stuff, with Deebo Samuel already requesting a trade out of there. Is that a team who now they're able to keep a lot of their key pieces together if they're paying a quarterback, 10 to 20 instead of 40?
I mean, I honestly think you'd be more likely to convince Purdy to take a pay cut than Rodgers. It's not going to be the same pay cut, because it's not going to be like you said, he's not going to take a 5-year, $50 million deal and get paid $10 million a year. But I just don't think Rodgers is gonna be yeah, man, I just love football so much. I want to play for $10 million. I don't think that's very realistic. And in a perfect world, I
don't know if it's I love football or if I love myself and I want people to remember me as an awesome quarterback. So I want to go to a team that's really good
or
that has weapons. No, I know. First off, Rodgers is, throughout his whole Green Bay run, I was captain of the team, no doubt about it. But I just think you're always not always, but a lot of times that last act can kind of be remembered a little bit more than you would want it to be. Obviously, if you're a guy like Rodgers, who, like you said, has won 4 MVPs, has a Super Bowl, we all know how good he is. But, are people going to remember him for the terrible season on the Jets, more than they should when they're looking at his career? I think possibly. That's why he would want to write one more chapter, even if it was for less. But again, that's a lot of assumptions there. That's a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, to me, he just doesn't come across as someone that's I really care about my legacy that much, especially when it's like you said, if he was missing like a piece of his legacy, if it was like, yeah, I have 4 MVPs, but I never won the Super Bowl, or yeah, I've won like 2 Super Bowls, but I've never had like that killer MVP season, and so I'm like hungry for that. Like, he's truly accomplished all one can hope to accomplish, and unless he's like, I want to be known as the greatest quarterback of all time, which he's like so far away from being that he's not going to be. Not to say that he's not a great quarterback, but just he's not like on that level. So I don't really know what. I mean, even if he were to win the Super Bowl and win MVP, like what does that truly do for his legacy? He's already a Hall of Famer.
Doesn't all of a sudden make him in that Brady conversation? Correct.
So I don't even really think. Now that I think about it, I don't even think there's anything he can gain unless, again, he loves football so much that he just can't stay away, which I don't think is probably true.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess if he won a Super Bowl and an MVP, then he could sneak onto that 4 spot in the Mount Rushmore, but that's about as high as I could give him.
Do you think right now he had a better or a worse career than Peyton Manning?
Worse. And Correct. I don't even like Peyton Manning.
Correct. And I don't think that winning another Super Bowl, which, by the way, I don't think that if he were to win the Super Bowl, it would be, I think it'd probably be like that Peyton Manning second Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's clearly not the reason.
Because of.
I say he's not the reason, but I mean, shit. Actually, I don't know if he'd be that bad because this dude Peyton Manning they were actually winning in spite of his.
Yeah, he was awful. He was awful.
But
like even Rodgers this past year on the Jets wasn't as bad as what Manning was in that last year.
Correct. So he wouldn't be that bad, but even if you add a second Super Bowl, I still don't think if you add that to his resume, that would even take him above Peyton. So it's like, okay, you're not even getting above the guy that's probably a top 5 quarterback of all time. You're not even breaking him. So what are you breaking into?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. So final answer, what is he doing in September 2025, Aaron Rodgers?
He's just doing monthly cameos on Joe Rogan Experience.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe he's cameos. He has a sub podcast under the Joe Rogan Experience podcast network.
But it's only a once a month type. It's more like a once a month podcast, not like every week.
Yeah, just does it. The only people he has on are his family members because no one he ever used to play with would come on. Maybe Favre would come on once.
Well, that's a tough thing, especially
Adams, of course.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a tough thing talking about the San Francisco going home is apparently he's falling out with his entire family, which is the least surprising thing of all time.
How do you fall out with your family? What does that even mean? Well,
I don't want to misspeak, but I'm pretty sure there was some beef between him and the brother, and then it divided the family, and they all went with Jordan Rodgers, pretty much, to keep it brief. But I really don't know. Yeah, I think it's that. I think he's maybe do you see any TV work or anything from Rodgers, or you just think he's almost too weird to even go that route?
I don't even think people would want him.
No. I'll stop you there. You can be the biggest prick in the room of all time if whoever gets to say, "Hey, we got Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, one of the greatest quarterbacks." People would want him.
I think he would need to do game day or something like that, though. I don't even think he would be like. If I look at the NFL, if Terry Bradshaw dies, then maybe he would get that gig.
Yeah, those Bradshaw highlight reels are just getting tougher and tougher by the week.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the only job. It's the who's biggest threat to take Bill's countdown seat tomorrow. That's the Terry Bradshaw short list. That's I think his only way into the media is taking that Bradshaw role.
Yeah, on a pregame show. Yeah, no. I don't mean
color. No.
Yeah, no, not calling games. No, nothing like that. Or. Yeah. Being a part of the game.
Which, by the way, Tom Brady actually got a lot better throughout the year, and I don't think people really gave him his flowers because they were giving him a lot of shit. And I think at the beginning of the year,
you mean someone who had never done something before after they did it for a year got better? Really?
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
So sorry, that wasn't aimed at you. That was just all the dumbasses who were saying it before the season.
Well, he's the greatest football player of all time, so clearly he has to be the greatest color guy of all time, too.
That's what I'm saying.
Joe Montana
that's what it's got to be. So was Jordan. Jordan was awesome at calling games.
Now, Jordan just was the best dad of all time based on his son getting arrested the other day. Bronny would never get arrested like that.
Dad and owner. Yeah, Bronny wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan, all he did was get his kid to UCF. Bron got his son to the whole league. That ends the debate. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, Shaq. Last question that we're going to end on. Another one from Jonathan Ryder. The two-piece combo. Finishing it out with
Chris
some
Childs
soccer.
gave to Kobe?
Exactly. Champions League dark horse.
Okay, like I need a further
I'm going to name
definition.
you the teams.
I need a further definition.
I'm going to name
of dark horse. So go on.
Yep, I was going to say I'm going to name you the teams you cannot say.
Okay. So I can't say City, Real Madrid, Bayern,
Liverpool.
Okay.
You think you could say Liverpool?
Sorry,
They're the best team on the continent.
We were only really talking about teams that are in that knockout phase playoff.
No. We're just saying any team in the Champions League.
Okay.
That is left in the Champions League that is not considered a favorite, basically. So the dark horses, I'll give you Bayern, City, Real Madrid, Liverpool. Those are the only four I'm giving you.
Okay, so I can say
anyone outside of those four.
I honestly think whoever comes out of that, like to me, just looking at the team still in the competition, Bayer Leverkusen and Atleti just kind of instantly jump out at me, because Atleti is just a bitch to play against, and I don't think anyone's like going to be excited for an Atleti tie. So like, if we look at right now they could play the winner of that City Real Madrid tie, or they could play the winner of that Celtic Bayern tie. And by the way, I told y'all that Celtic was going to give Bayern a game, and they should have equalized. So
Bayern was like holding on at the end.
Correct. So I think if Atleti plays Bayern in that next round, and you kind of see how the bracket's going to. So if Atleti play Bayern, they would then probably play Inter. They'd probably play Inter after that in the quarterfinal, which is very winnable. And then that's when they get into like the Barca or Liverpool in the semifinal. And it's like, I wouldn't put money against Atleti beating Barca or Liverpool in a semifinal of the Champions League. So I'd probably say Atleti or Bayer Leverkusen, just because I think that what's his name? Xabi Alonso is just a really good coach. I think I kind of sneaky like their depth that they have, and their their top end talent. I think is really scary. Like if you get guys like Florian Wirtz who kind of just like look around and kind of like, I'm playing in a Champions League quarterfinal tonight. I'm just going to be the best player on the pitch, because I think he is at that level already. And then even guys like Granit Xhaka who aren't going to be scared. Guys like Barrow and Gampier who just aren't going to be scared. Guys that aren't going to be the best players on the pitch, but just are going to be like, I'm playing against Jude Bellingham and I don't care. Like Granit Xhaka is going to look at Jude Bellingham. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to break his leg. And if I can't break his leg, then I'm going to break Vinny's leg, just to set the tone. Like first play, like that. That's what I'm saying. So I think that those two teams I'd probably say are my dark horses. I would love to say my Arsenal, but with our injury problems, I don't think it's a possibility for us to be in that conversation, unfortunately. This would have actually probably been the year to have had a good go at it, but with the way things broke, I mean, right now our path is looking like probably either Feyenoord or Juve in the round of 16, which I like either one of those, and then maybe a Bayern in the quarterfinal, which I'd much rather play this Bayern team than many other Bayern teams of the past, because we almost did them last year.
Real question for you: should Bayern even be in the favorite, race? No. I don't think. I mean that Bayern and Leverkusen game that was played yesterday. Again, we're recording this on February 16th. I thought was illuminating for like. I like something about Bayern just, and it started last year and it's just kind of continued where like you don't have confidence in them, especially seeing games out. It's just not. And yesterday, I mean, they completely played to just literally park the bus and not create anything. I think their XG was .05 versus Bayer Leverkusen, who had over 2 expected goals. And again, that's not everything, but I'm pretty sure Bayern had 2 shots in the whole game.
I don't know. I think they're kind of turning into like a better version of what PSG was for a long time, where it's like they're built to dominate in their league, but not built to play against other really good teams. Because like you pick your head up and you'll see Bayern lineups that have like Harry Kane, Musiala, Sane, Gnabry, and like an extra attacker on and Elise out there. And it's like, how are you gonna play against like a Real Madrid, a Man City, a Liverpool with like this kind of a lineup, and then just like stick Kimmich in there and be like, yeah, we'll be fine.
And I thought when Company did the post match interview and he was like, yeah, when he was talking about the team's defensive performance, and he was like, yeah, if teams earn the right to make us defend, then we'll defend. It's like, fucking defend well then. I mean, you easily should have given up 2 goals in that game, maybe even closer to 3, and I just don't, like, there's all this Bayern buzz about, oh my gosh, Upamecano's been so awesome for us this year. We're so happy with Kim's performances and all that. And then I watch him and I'm like, I'm not confident in Kim at all. Upamecano is like fine. He's not like a guy who I'm thrilled about extending the contract of, but whatever. And then like their next center back is like Ito, who just made his debut in that Leverkusen game at left back, which told me everything I needed to about the game in the direction that Bayern wanted to play in for that one. So I just don't think they have the strength to even be considered in that favorites group. So I apologize for even putting them in there in the first place. But
yeah, I mean, I think Barca. I don't know if they were mentioned. I
put them in I consider them in the favorites group.
Yeah, I'm as not.
Or no, maybe not.
I'm not as big of a believer in them. Not saying they're not a good team, but it's just like you kind of see it because people love to jump on trains in like September. Just thinking that's going to how it's work. It's like, oh, you tell me they beat Osasuna 5-0 in September. Yeah. Oh man, they're the best team in the world. And now you look at the look at the La Liga table, and it's like, oh wait, they're not the best team in Spain. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Oh, Rafinha isn't the best player in the world. Still having a fantastic season. He's a fantastic player, but he's just not going to be like someone of a Mo Salah level or a Vinny level or something like that. And then even looking at Lamine Yamal, it's like, oh, so he's actually not the best winger in the world. Who would have thought that a 17-year-old isn't the best winger in the world? Again, still a fantastic player, but it's kind of what we were talking about with Chelsea. Now, they're like 2 steps above that, but there's a difference between having really, really good players like across the board and having like world class, which is typically what the Champions League winner has, unless you're a bastard of a team like an Atleti, which is how they've gotten to 2 Champions League finals in the past, decade or so.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Barca, to me, I think it's just too much of a inconsistency in defense more than anything.
Jeez, dude, I swear every single time I see their highlights, they concede 4. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, because they play the highest line in all of Europe, and then they have Inigo Martinez and Kubarsi, who Kubarsi's fine pace wise, but he's not like a fast center back or anything like that. And then Inigo Martinez is 100. Yeah, and then Martinez is 100. So it's like, oh wait, you guys are letting in goals? No way. So that's the one other team I would throw in there strictly because of the draw and kind of how it looks would be Villa. I know we've actually talked about them being underperforming in the league, maybe, or maybe not underperforming, but just
they have a cup manager.
They're not going to.
Yeah, they do. They're not going to finish third. We get it.
Yeah, yeah. But the team that they could play in the next round is going to be either Atalanta, Bruges, Dortmund, or Sporting. I'm not ruling Sporting out because we all know what Dortmund can do with a 3-goal lead, and that's give it away in 10 seconds.
I like them against all of those teams.
Yeah, like literally any of those 4 teams, I would feel more than comfortable with Villa beating. And then the round after that, it would be most likely Liverpool or Barcelona, which obviously is a much tougher test, but I think the thing about Villa is they can actually be comfortable playing both ways. They can be comfortable as a possession-based team that has to ask more of the questions, and I can see them in situations where they're sitting in and playing more of a counter-attacking game, where they're being more direct, where they're asking the questions of other people. So I could see them making. I'm not sitting there saying they would be favored against a Barca or a Liverpool. I just think making a quarterfinal and then, hey, you're comfortable playing the style you would have to in that quarterfinal. I don't think that's a bad recipe.
Right. Yeah. So I'm glad we had this whole conversation just for Real Madrid to win it. So that was fun. So yeah, really, really fun episode today. Something a little bit different. Not really covering a specific topic. Really enjoyed it, and I would love to do something like this in the near future. Me and you have also talked about like maybe doing a live stream, which would be awesome, but getting people to watch would be even more fun. So we'd probably have to...
we'd have to set it for like a holiday that everyone's home for.
A holiday, or we'd have to also market the shit out of it so that people would actually remember and tune in and stuff like that. So... It'd be fun. Also, just before we sign off, I did just get a text from Don Watts about an hour or so ago saying maybe it's time for me to become an Arsenal fan. So clearly he's not taking.
Are you guys taking applications?
No, we actually closed them after the Kai Havertz injury, because now people are trying to pretend like he is a decent attacker. They're like, oh shoot, they lost Havertz, now it's done.
Yeah, everyone. I'm so glad you said that. Everyone hated him.
The worst player of all time.
Everyone hated him until he was injured. Then all of a sudden he was like the best player. It was like they lost prime Ronaldo. It was like, oh shoot, what are they going to do without Havertz?
Yeah,
it's like, you mean the guy who you've been saying has been holding him back for the last 9 months?
I told Savannah too. I was like, the people criticizing the board and Mikel is just insane to me, because it's like, if you look at our attacking options, on the first day of the season, it's like Saka.
Yeah, no one was complaining.
It's like Saka, Havertz, Trossard, Martinelli, Sterling, I guess, Ethan Nwaneri, and there's one more. Anyway, but that's at least 6 Premier League level attackers at the very minimum. All of them are.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You can't just be
too deep in every position.
Yeah, and you can't just be like, oh yeah.
And Jesus. Did you say Jesus?
Gabby Jesus, correct. So that's 7, at least good, decent Premier League, and then 6 and then Sterling. At least decent Premier League players in our ranks, and you can't just be like, oh yeah, you know what? I think 4 of these guys are going to have season-ending injuries. So let's bring in another attacker who's probably never going to play, but is at the level where he could change the games for us, but also he'll be happy if he plays 10 matches a season. Because that's what footballers do.
It's the most unrealistic needle that they ask people to thread all the time. It's like someone has 10 injuries, and they're like, why do they not have enough depth? It's like, oh, gee, you mean our 9th attacker isn't going to be a world-class option for us? No shit.
But to be fair, I mean, Raheem Sterling probably had the single worst performance I've ever seen from any Arsenal player ever yesterday, so that was fun. I mean,
a big shout.
Having him...
I watched the Pablo Mari game in Lukaku's debut for Chelsea. I don't know.
Well, Lukaku was supposed to be an actual good player, though. This dude, Raheem Sterling, was playing against James Justin.
Who got hurt?
A hurt James Justin. And then played against a guy who I'd never heard of before, whose last name was Koulibaly. So...
Yeah.
And this dude was doing shit that, honestly, if you did it in a 77
just running off
game,
sides,
I would be, pissed off. His dribbling move was stop, stare at the guy, and then try to knock it past him for pace. When he doesn't
Meanwhile,
have it
he can't
anymore.
run past anybody.
Yeah. And I was just like, God, dude, it was sad. When Mikel Merino is market correcting you in a game as an attacker, then
in the next Arsenal decent game, is the front 3 going to be Trossard, Merino, and Nwaneri, or is it going to be Nwaneri, Trossard, and Sterling? Well, is Sterling even going to get another chance?
Well, I didn't get it because after the game, this dude Mikel Arteta was getting interviewed, and they were like, "Hey, are we going to see Mikel Merino playing striker again?" He was like, "I don't think so." I was like, "You don't think so? What are you talking about?" We're going to give Sterling another chance. I think he just had an off day today, even though he's been shit for literally the entire season.
Because Jesus is done for the year,
Jesus
right?
is out for the year. Havertz is out for the year.
Havertz, I know, is done for the year.
Saka is supposed to be back in March.
But like late March, right? Like another month, probably.
I saw him post a workout video like a week ago. So I don't know what that means.
Fingers crossed.
It's like when Jurian Timber was back in first team training, like at the end of February last year,
season.
And it was like, oh, dude, he actually might play this year. Okay,
dude. I'm just telling you from the Alaba injury, being back in training literally doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And I don't even think he's in team training. He's just like working out at the facility.
So still a month.
Correct. And then I think Gabby Martinelli's initial diagnosis was for about a month. So he probably has like 3 or so weeks until he gets fully back. So I don't really know what Mikel's cooking up for. He's not going to play Marino there, but Sterling's the worst player at the club, so I don't really know how to balance that. Maybe he's just going to go 4-4-2 and say screw it.
I was hearing some Lewis Skelly on the wing shouts. Is that an option?
No.
I didn't think so. I wanted you to address the stuff I was seeing. And this wasn't just from ESPN FC either, by the way.
Jules said this?
Well, he did actually, and then I think Craig Burley followed it up with saying I wanted to see Calafiore up further upfield and keep Lewis Skelly at left back, which I thought was a shocker.
I don't know. Is basically the answer to the question. Is I don't know. Like if Mikel Marino's not playing up front, I truly don't know like what the front three is. To be honest,
yeah, because after that Leicester game, you can't actually like need to see any more necessarily for this short period.
The only thing that would make any sense other than Mikel Marino up front is if they just decided to say screw it and put Martin Odegaard as like a center forward, like false nine thing, and then do the thing that we did against Leicester where it's like, hey, Declan, you're going to have to do the running of an 8, but also you're going to have to get into the box every single time we have the ball in a wide area so we can have some sort of aerial threat.
Yeah.
So...
yeah. That was a bit of a task, but...
Which, by the way, he should have probably scored 2. So I was glad Mikel Marino came on and actually had that second goal was not an easy finish. I mean, I know he was wide open, but hitting that first time on the skip is not like an easy goal. But he took it like a seasoned pro. He did like the whole like... I can't even describe it. Like, you know guys that just score goals, just the way they approach the ball. And it's like, yep, this is about to go in. And he just sided it right into that bottom corner and then just runs off like he's done it 1,000 times.
That was that same feeling that United fans got when Xerxes flicked it in with the left against Fulham in his debut, and look how well that's going. So I mean, I think Marino was definitely getting 10 for the end of the year.
Tried his best to absolutely destroy it into the near post, and then it went off of the edge of his toe and skipped into the far post. That Xerxes goal that you're talking about. Like this dude was trying to like bury it near post bottom corner, and then it skipped off of his foot, went far post, and then he.
Yeah.
So, I appreciated that from him. That meant a lot to me.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, again, great episode for us today. Mailbag, episode 26. Really, really excited for this one. Excited to hear your guys' feedback. Actually got like over 25 views on the Madrid Atleti review clip this week. So, really, really excited about that. Hopefully, we can get some good clips out of this week. And send in any questions if you have them. We'd love to make this a more regular thing, not doing just questions, but maybe incorporating them in. But until next time, we'll see you. Signing off. See you in episode 27.